Rooster Tail Talk, a podcast dedicated to everything related to the sport we all love, hydroplane racing. I'm your host, David Newton, and it's time once again, so sit back, relax, and welcome to Rooster Tail Talk. It is August 4th, 2020, and this is episode 47. I had a great opportunity to sit down and talk via Zoom once again. I'm always talking to people on Zoom nowadays. It's been a while since I've had an interview face-to-face. It was great to talk with Jimmy Shane. We sat down, talked for over an hour. This is going to be a two-part episode. But we talked to Jimmy about a lot of different things. And I really wish this could have been an interview where I was congratulating him on a great victory of the Columbia Cup or Seafair. Unfortunately, both those races aren't happening this year. Seems like nothing's happening this year. But I had a great time talking to Jimmy about a lot of different things with hydroplane racing. In this episode, part one, we talked about his family racing traditions, his entry to H1, the Porter years, and his transition to the Madison team, which he now races for under the sponsor of Home Street Bank. All right, I'm joined today with Jimmy Shane. He just got off work and he had a little bit of time to talk with me. So Jimmy, how are you doing over there?
I'm doing good. Burning the midnight candle, but everything is going good.
Well, that is the hydroplane racer's norm, though, to burn both ends of the candle, right?
Well, most boat racers have day jobs, and then we have our boat racing, glorified hobby that we all love, and it takes a lot to make everything happen.
Well, I do want to ask you about your day job because I think you have a unique day job. You work for Blue Origin. So what exactly do you do for that?
I'm basically a senior technician at Blue Origin. So I get to build and assemble the capsules and the rockets and the boosters and all of the assemblies that go together to actually build the New Shepard propulsion rocket that is eventually going to take humans up into the suborbit and take them up into space. So they get to experience some weightlessness, and they'll actually be astronauts once they ride on a flight on New Shepard. So We're getting really, really, really close. We've made big strides, and we're almost there. We're doing really well right now.
That's really exciting. That's really exciting to hear. Does any of that translate over to the world of hydroplane racing? All the things that you're working on there?
There's a lot that will translate over. Aerospace industry and boat race industry, there is some pretty vast differences.
Yeah.
Obviously, the quality control on the aerospace at Blue Origin is a little bit more stringent.
Yeah.
But we get to experience the R&D and the experimenting with the boat racing. So I have two of the most unique and cool jobs in the world, and I get both ends of the spectrum. So I think it helps keep me pretty well balanced throughout my work experience.
Oh, very exciting. I imagine, well, you actually have a rocket scientist on your crew, Jimmy Gilbert. So you probably have some conversations about rockets every once in a while, I imagine.
We do. In fact, we were able to bring the Miss Home Street to Blue Origin for just a little private viewing session for the employees there. And once they found out that Jimmy Gilbert was a former NASA, basically NASA scientist, they cared a little bit less about seeing the boat and talking more with Jimmy when the boat was there. But they love both of them. They love sitting in the boat. They love seeing it. They love the differences between the aerospace and the boat. And I think it was a great experience. But yeah, Jimmy is amazing to have on our team, a huge asset. And I love sharing stories with Jimmy. He's got some really good ones over the years.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, he's a very smart man. Well, like many other boat races, you were kind of born into boat racing. Your parents raced for many years. Can you tell us about the experience growing up around the sport of boat racing, how that influenced you?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I was 100% forced into the sport of hydroplane racing. That's not at all true, but I grew up. I was surrounded. It was my environment growing up, 100%. And we, as a family, my family owned a metal fabrication business in Havre de Grace, Maryland. My dad started racing hydroplanes in 1969, and it was pretty much all that I knew. I grew up in the metal business with the entire family. We would all work during the day on metal jobs, making money, and then we would spend our summers and in the off season working on the boats and going racing in the summertime. So it was a very unique upbringing. I took full advantage of the resources that were around me to learn, and we got to travel the country as a family. So very blessed, very honored to be able to do that with my family growing up. I started racing when I was 8 years old, 8 to 9 years old, in the junior runabout category. That was the first boat that I actually ever drove. It was 100% borrowed equipment, and that's what we all love about the boat racing sport. It is a community, it's a family community, and we help each other out a lot. So once again, it was just a blessed upbringing, and I was very fortunate to be where I was at that time.
Yeah. Well, could you say doing that with your family, did that bring you closer to your family, having that shared bond?
I don't know if it brought us closer or we fought more because we were around each other all the time, or whether one thing it definitely did was make us the most competitive people in the world. I mean, we were always out. We each had our own boat. Most of them we built ourselves, and we would build our engines, and we would work as a team, but there was this very unique competitive edge in all of us, and we all wanted to go out and beat each other. We would all of us raced against each other at one time, all four of us, which I don't think has ever been done maybe in any sport. But it was, like I say, it was a very unique upbringing. My dad, I learned from him and my mom as well, that if you wanted to succeed, you had to put the effort in. They would work on their equipment. They would work hard at the metal shop. And I think that's one of the best things they passed along to me was, if you want to achieve your goals, you have to put in the effort. And we all did as a family. And we were pretty successful growing up. My dad won 7 national championships consecutively in the 145 cubic inch class, which was one of the most competitive classes in inboard hydroplanes. My mom won a national championship. My sister won a national championship. And I've been fortunate to win a few of my own here throughout the years.
Man, that's some pressure for you right there to, follow all those attributes there. Well, I found it with my father. It's really nice to share the summers with him in racing. So I'm glad to hear. I like hearing stories of families doing that stuff together, because I think hydroplane racing is such a family-oriented sport. So I like hearing those stories.
Absolutely.
Before we talk more about your racing career, I always like to talk about hydro idols or hydro heroes for people around the sport. And one thing I'm curious with you, because you grew up in Maryland on the East Coast, so it's a little bit different kind of boat racing culture than over in Seattle. I don't know, but I feel like there's less of an emphasis on unlimiteds over there. So I'm curious, who were your hydro idols kind of growing up? Who did you follow?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I wasn't actually exposed to unlimited hydroplanes until I was about, I would say about 16 years old, when I actually got to tour the Miss Budweiser shop when they had the APBA national meeting out here in Seattle. My mom had won the national championship that year in the hydroplane class. So we came out here to Seattle, and the first time I actually ever saw an unlimited hydroplane was at the Miss Budweiser shop, which it doesn't look like it in my background, but I'm actually sitting in that same shop right now doing this interview. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, we weren't exposed to unlimited hydroplanes on the East Coast very much. They had a few races back. Norfolk was, I think, in 1997, and maybe a few others down in Miami, like in the late 80s or early 80s, late 70s and 80s. But at my age growing up, I was never really exposed to them. So my idols growing up in hydroplane racing were definitely my dad, number one, and my mom and my sister. I think that it goes without saying. I always enjoyed watching old videos of, we had some East Coast local boat racers that kind of made it up to the ranks of unlimiteds, but never got to that top tier in the league. But Wheeler Baker got to drive an unlimited hydroplane. Laird Lauterbach got to drive an unlimited hydroplane, and they were both from Maryland. So I would say that I definitely looked up to them because that's was my goal as a child. I wanted to. The first time that I laid eyes on that Miss Budweiser boat, I said, "That's it. That's my goal. I'm gonna go drive. I'm gonna go drive that boat." And pretty cool stories that I actually got to drive. That boat was the T6 Miss Budweiser, and that was the first boat that I got to actually test with Ted Porter back in 2006.
Wow.
So I was again very fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah.
My dad, hands down, though, is my number one idol in hydroplane racing and in life in general.
Well, thanks for sharing that. It's a good list there to have for Hydro Heroes. You mentioned Larry Lauterbach, and he has such a legacy in the sport of many classes with all of his Lauterbach designs. And you speak of, driving the T6, which when you saw it when you were, 16, you said?
Yeah, I think I was 15, 16 in that age range.
And it wasn't that many more years after that you drove it, because you started pretty young.
Yeah, it was.
Class.
Yeah, Budweiser had pretty much just about stopped their sponsorship at that time. I think it was. I think I saw the boat in 2001, and they ended their sponsorship in 2003. So Ted bought the stuff in the end of 2005, beginning of 2006, and the first time I got to test the boat was 2006. Oh. So it was only 5 years after seeing the boat that I actually got to hop in there and take it for a spin.
Yeah. Well, I think it's unique too that you're so young, because I think for many years the average age for unlimited class drivers is much higher than early 20s, right? So it's a kind of unique situation I think you were in. How did you come about getting that call from Ted Porter to drive?
I actually, so at the time I was racing a number of boats. Obviously I was racing my own inboard hydroplane, but I was driving for the Weber brothers out of Michigan. I was driving their 5-liter hydroplane, and we were doing very well on the circuit. We were winning a lot. And then that's right when Ted had purchased the unlimited equipment from Budweiser, and he chose Mike Weber as his basically team manager at that time. And that's where the connection happened. Mike eventually asked me, "Hey, do you want to take the boat for a spin? You're doing really well in the 5-liter." He's like, "I'd like to see what you can do in the unlimited." And we have this little test session in Decatur, and I think it was Decatur, Illinois. I don't remember.
I think Illinois, but
Salina. It was Salina, Ohio. It was in Ohio.
Okay.
So Salina, Ohio, and I got to take the T6 boat out in 2006 for about 5 or 6 laps, and I thought I was doing 1,000 miles an hour. Actually, it was the opposite. I thought that I think the expectation in my head was that the boats were so fast, but I didn't realize that they were proportionate to the size of them, how fast they went. So it actually felt really slow when when I got in the boat on that small course. I was like, it doesn't feel like I'm going that fast. And then they told me I ran a lap close to 130 miles an hour, and I was like, oh, that's average. Okay, I was going pretty fast on that little course then. So, but it's just proportionate to the size of the boat. It's very different between a small, very agile boat that really reacts fast. These unlimited hydroplanes are a completely different beast. They're big, they're slow as far as the movements go, but they do hit a very, very fast speed of obviously over 200 miles an hour, as you've seen.
Yeah, they do. So I think it's safe to say that the first time I unlimited, you were hooked on that class size.
I was hooked. I loved every single kind of boat, but there's something about the speed of the unlimited hydroplane that you just want to. Even now, I still want to go faster. I feel like I that's my next step. I want to go. How do I go faster in the unlimited hydroplane? So. I think we've been doing a pretty good job of that as well with the Miss Home Street boat.
I think you have.
David Newton here, listeners. I really hope you're enjoying the podcast. Rooster Tail Talk is a free podcast that runs off of, basically a teacher's salary and contributions from our listeners. If able, please show your support. To make a contribution, please visit our website at roostertailtalk.com and find the support tab. Thank you. Now let's get back to our program.
You ran for, speaking of Ted Porter, you ran for him for a number of years. You won many races, national championship, world championship with them. What was your time like racing for Porter?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, I started out as a backup driver back in 2007, and unfortunately, Mike Allen had a few incidents with the boat that he was driving in 2007 and 2008. So Ted actually brought out the backup boat for Formula. It was Formula Boats at the time, and that was the main title sponsor. And I got to drive in Tri-Cities in Seattle both of those years with Ted's backup hulls. One was an old Leland hull, and then the second one was what is now the U-57. Used to be the old like Winston Eagle lobster boat that they converted over.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that is left, but at one time it was that.
I don't know either. I think Mark still has it, I believe, but Mark Evans. But I got to experience what some older ill handling boats felt like at the time, which I think was a good thing for me. They were very hard to steer, very hard to handle, and very hard to get the speed out of. So jumping forward to 2012, when I actually signed on with Ted full time, he went from a 2-boat team to a 1-boat team, and I thought that was going to be a good thing for Ted to do with the resources and the equipment that he had. And I think I was in a good place at that time with Graham Trucking and Ted Porter. Graham Trucking was the sponsor. So we had 2 great years in 2012 and 2013. We finished second in 2012 in the high points and first in 2013 in the high points. And we won many, many races. And it was a fantastic team to be a part of. Very, very professional. You had to dress a certain way, look a certain way, speak a certain way. And I think that really helped me as a stepping stone to really get the full scope and expectation of what it was to be an unlimited hydroplane driver. Ted was fantastic to race for, and I learned so much from him and the team doing that. So yeah, Ted was Ted and that entire Graham Trucking and Formula Boat team. They definitely helped me get to where I am today in this sport.
You definitely made a name for yourself in those years working or driving for Formula Boats and Graham Trucking. Definitely had some good times there with your wins and national championships. But then in 2014, Steve David stepped down and you took a spot in the Miss Madison racing organization. I'm curious I'd like you to talk about your decision to change teams at that time, but you still are racing for that team. So it's been racing 6 years now.
Yeah, correct. This would have been the 7th year with the team. COVID, darn COVID. Yeah, that was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make as a professional racer. Obviously, the memories and what we had done at Porter Racing and with Graham Trucking, I knew that I was in a good place. And when the opportunity of the Miss Madison ride came open, they approached me and numerous other drivers as well to possibly take that seat in that ride. I had to sit down and have a long conversation with Bianca, my wife at the time, and we decided together that we just felt like the best path forward for me as a driver was to switch over to the Madison team. And I'll tell you, it was not without reservation with the position that I was in, and especially being the national champion. But I think that I think I would have been successful with either team, and I just felt like the Miss Madison team was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. And what I've always said, being with this Madison team, is when I win and the team wins, we win and we get the full bagging of the 14,000 people in Madison, Indiana. When we lose and we do bad and I make a mistake, I get the full wrath of the 14,000 people of Madison, Indiana. There's some of the most dedicated fans and most passionate fans in any form of motorsports. And I absolutely enjoy being a part of their family and their community and representing them as a driver. And I just, I really enjoy my time as the Miss Madison driver, and I look forward to hopefully many, many more years.
Well, that is kind of hard. That's some pressure having 14,000 owners you have to answer to with any race, right?
Yes. Yes. I wouldn't want it any other way. I absolutely,
Yeah.
I love their support. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I can say that they made a good call by having you come over and replace Steve David. Steve was a huge advocate for the sport and so accessible to fans and was such a fan favorite. And you've done a great job of filling his role, not only on the race course, but off the race course in those spots where the sport really needs advocates and people that can reach out to the fans.
Obviously, Steve's shoes were pretty big to fill. I mean, he was always a fan favorite. He was a great ambassador for our sport, and I learned a lot from him. And I just appreciate and just try to do my best to just keep the ball rolling with the Miss Madison team.
Well, at that team, you have some great people working, wrenching on the boats there. We talked about Jimmy Gilbert and the rocket scientist that you have, but you also have some brothers that are just so knowledgeable in the sport and have done an amazing job of setting up some fast boats with some limited resources. You have Mike and Larry Hansen. I've heard so many great things about them as far as setups and understanding the boats. Could you talk about their importance with the team?
Absolutely, and I've been fortunate to work with Mike and Larry for a few years now. It wasn't always that way. When I first switched over to the Madison team, I was so looking forward to working with Mike and Larry, and then Mike decided to take a position with Eric Elstrom's team.
That's right.
And be chief with them. So I was really disappointed because I was looking so forward to working with Mike. But Larry, man, he took the reins that year in 2014, and we had a banner year in 2014. Those two guys are amazing. I've been working with them for the last couple of years now, and you cannot stop them. When they're at the shop working, they go nonstop. They're full bore. They're professionals. They know what they're doing. They absolutely do the right thing the first time instead of trying to do something quick and then have to go fix it later. They take the time and the effort to do it right the first time, and that really is a key to, I think, the success of the Miss Madison team is having that mindset, not only with Mike and Larry, but that transcends over all of the team members. We're going to do this. We're going to do it right. We're going to do this a certain way. We're going to race a certain way. And it just sets the tone for the entire team. I've learned so much from them, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot more.
Yeah. Well, that leadership role really has such a huge part of it. Like, as you said, it sets a tone for everyone else on that team. I've been around some teams where it's not quite that same way, and you can definitely tell at the race site who's got their act together and who doesn't. Well, one thing I'm curious about with you, and I've known some drivers before that have a lot of superstitions, and hydrogen racing is no different than many other sports that have superstitions. I've heard of, a lot of people don't want watermelons in the pits at all. It's bad luck. I'm curious, do you have any superstitions that you do on race day? Any routines that you have to do? No. Just go.
Well, the only thing that I do is I try to.
That's not the answer I was looking for, Jimmy.
Yeah, no superstitions.
All right.
I try to just keep the same mindset before each race, every heat of racing or any time that I step in the boat. I try to keep the same pattern, the same mindset. I like to make sure I go through and give the team fist bumps as I'm walking from the truck down to the boat. And then when it comes time for the final heat, I give them all handshakes instead of fist bumps.
Okay.
And I think that's just my thing. That's what I do. That might be my only superstition that I have.
Yeah.
I don't have a favorite pair of underwear. I don't have. I could eat watermelon before the race. It doesn't bother me, but I try to just keep an open mind and keep things loose and keep things fun and happy. And I think that that keeps the team upbeat. So I just try to do that. No superstitions.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to hear. You're on such a positive wavelength with that. You don't have to. You're not brought down by the superstitions. There's some people that I think still they don't want watermelons at all around them at the lake. That's just it's bad stuff for them.
Maybe I'll start eating watermelons and we'll see.
You should.
I'm not gonna do that.
There
I'll
you
be
go.
fine.
All right.
Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I do it subliminally. So
You have a lot of stats right now. You're have the most wins of active drivers, Gold Cup victories, national championships, all that stuff. But one thing that is just impressive to me in your years of unlimited class that you haven't had a major blowover. And I think that's very unique to someone who's won in that class because it takes a lot to do that. I'm rocking on some wood right now for my own superstition that I'm not jinxing you.
yeah,
But,
me as well.
Yeah,
Me as well. Got some wood handles here.
but but just wondering, is there something that you think that your driving style has to do with that, or it's kind of mind-boggling to me that you've been able to be so successful and not had that on the other side?
Yeah, it's not something that I try to think about too much. I think that
Well, you are now. Sorry, Jimmy.
I know. Thanks. No, I think what I've always tried to work hard off the water to make myself better on the water. And I think that it's no different with this team and this group of people. I feel like if you're prepared, that you're setting yourself up for success. And maybe in a sense, we work harder. We work hard, not harder, but we work hard in the off season. We try to make the boat fast. And maybe it's just where I can still be fast in the boat and run it a lot more conservatively than other guys or women on the water. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe part of it is I've had numerous accidents in the smaller classes in the limited hydroplanes. And I've reached that limit of where you have a point of no return where you blow over or barrel roll or I think maybe I'm just able to race a little more conservatively than other drivers, and maybe that's why I haven't had a blowover. You look at all the old videos, you look at old races, and it is part of the sport still that you kind of expect it to happen eventually, running as fast as you do in one of these unlimited hydroplanes. I try to be really good about my situational awareness. If I'm in a position where I'm in between two boats and behind and I made a late start and I see the door closing, I'm not going to risk it. We have a fast boat. We can make up points over the weekend, and I'll just back out and let the other boats go and try to stay in the clear. And maybe that's part of it too. I'm aware of my situation when it's presented to me, and I just try to drive smart. That's all. I try to drive smart. I try to race for points because one of our main goals is national championships. And if the race wins come along with that, that's just a bonus and a good bonus. Yeah. But I think I've just in my mindset, I'm a points racer, and I'm there for the long-term success. So hopefully that's why I haven't had a major accident. But at the end of the day, I think it's I wouldn't say it's inevitable, but I've known drivers that have raced inboards their entire life and have never had an accident, and maybe it's just luck as well. You never know.
Well, let's keep luck on your side.
I will keep as much luck on my side as I can.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed our episode. Make sure you come back next week to listen to our next episode. We release new episodes every Tuesday at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your podcast player, as well as rate and review your experience. For more updates on Hydro News, check us out on social media. We're on the major players, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Rooster Tail Talk is also online with our website, www.roostertailtalk.com. On the website, you can sign up for an email subscription list to get notifications on upcoming episodes, Hydro News, podcast updates, and much, much more. Finally, this is a free podcast to all of our listeners. And if you're really enjoying your experience and want to help us to continue to grow and expand, please donate. You can find a link to donate through PayPal on our website through the support tab. So until next time, I hope to see you at the races.